Okay, so you're gearing up for your major project next year? Let's talk about the one thing that truly separates a decent project from an incredible one. We're talking responsive design. Getting this right is absolutely non-negotiable, and today we're going to walk through the exact blueprint to make sure you nail it.
So, you've built your app, and I'm sure you've checked it on your own laptop, maybe given it a quick look on your phone. But be honest with yourself for a second. Is it really ready? Are you 100% confident it looks and works perfectly on every single device your users, and more importantly your markers, are going to see it on? Because heading into 2025, that old approach, well, it's just not going to cut it anymore. It looks okay on my phone isn't a testing strategy. It's a guess. And we're here to replace that guesswork with a professional, data-driven process. So let's dive in.
All right, here's the game plan. We'll start with a whole new way to think about testing. Then I'm going to give you the exact must-know screen sizes to test on. We'll look at the code, how to build this into your workflow, and we'll wrap it all up with the official checklist you'll need for your project.
Okay, first things first. We need a total mindset shift. Right now, you probably think about designing for an iPhone or a laptop. We need to stop that. From now on, we stop designing for devices and we start designing for dimensions. This one little change is the absolute core of the mobile-first approach. And that philosophy is actually pretty simple. Rule 1, you start narrow. Your basic CSS with no fancy media queries has to look perfect on the tiniest possible screen. Rule 2, you only add complexity. As the screen gets wider, you use media queries to add things like columns or grids. You build up, you don't scale down. And rule number 3, the most important one, let the content be your guide. You only change the layout when the content itself starts to look weird or break.
So what are these all-important dimensions? Well, this is it. This is your 2025 must-test list. These are the non-negotiable viewport widths that you need to have saved and ready to go in your browser's developer tools.
We're going to start at the absolute bottom, 320 pixels. Now you might be thinking, who even uses a screen that small? And you're right, the market share is tiny. But that's not the point. This isn't about users. This is a stress test for your code. Think of it as the narrow cover screen on a foldable phone. If your design doesn't break here, it's practically indestructible. And let's just tackle this debate head on. The myth is that 320px is irrelevant. The reality? It is the ultimate test of how robust your CSS is. It will instantly find every single flaw, every long word you forgot to wrap, every button with a fixed width. It's not about supporting old phones. It's about making your design future-proof. Okay, now for the big one. Almost 17%. That's the slice of the Australian mobile market using a screen between 390 and 393 pixels wide. Let that sink in. If your app looks broken at this size, it's broken for nearly 1 in 5 of your users. This is your new baseline for mobile.
And who makes up that 17%? Well, basically everyone with a standard iPhone from the last few years. We're talking the iPhone 12, 13, 14, all the way up to the new models. These are hands down some of the most popular phones out there. Your design has to be absolutely flawless at this width. No excuses.
And to finish off our mobile testing, we do one final quick sanity check at 430 pixels. This is for those big Pro Max phones. You're not really building a new layout here. You're just making sure your text and images don't stretch out and look all weird and unreadable on those wider phone screens. Okay, mobile is locked in. Now we get to the most exciting part, the most critical transition in your entire design. This is the exact moment where your simple, single column gets to evolve into something much more interesting. And that moment happens at 768 pixels. Think iPad held in portrait mode. It's the undisputed standard for tablets. And at this width, you finally have enough space to breathe. You can stop stacking everything in one long line and start introducing grids, sidebars, and card layouts. This is where your design really starts to shine. So what's the magic trick? It's this one simple line of code, a media query. All it says is, hey, once the screen is at least 768 pixels wide, use these new CSS rules instead. This is where you might switch a container from, say, display flex to display grid and instantly get that 2-column layout. It's so simple. But this right here, this is the very heart of responsive design. All right, let's move up to the big screens, the desktop experience. Now, the goal here is totally different. It's not about trying to fill all that extra space. It's about control, readability, and giving your project that professional, polished feel. Our first stop is 1366 pixels.
This is a super common size for smaller laptops. And at this point, a new enemy appears, text lines that are way too long. The single most important thing you need to do here is add a max width to your main content area. If you don't, your text becomes a giant, unreadable mess.
And this just says it all, doesn't it? Look at the left. That's what happens with no max width. A total wall of text, impossible to read. Now look at the right. The content is contained. It's centered, it's surrounded by clean white space, it's focused, it's elegant, it's professional. This one detail is the difference between an amateur site and a pro-level application. So by the time we get to the most common desktop size, 1920 pixels, there's one word I want you to burn into your brain: restraint. Your goal is not to fill the screen. Your goal is to use that max width to create a beautiful, readable frame for your content. That deliberate use of empty space is what makes a design feel confident and professional.
Now, knowing all these breakpoints is great, but what really gets you the marks in your major project is proving you've done the work. So let's talk about how to build this into your actual software development lifecycle and make it a formal, repeatable process.
Here's your 4-step game plan. It's simple. 1. For each of those key dimensions we talked about, you create a specific test case. 2. You bake this into your process. Every single user story you write should have an acceptance criteria that says works on all target viewports. 3. Work smarter, not harder. Save these dimensions as presets in your dev tools so you can test with a single click. And finally, step 4. Document everything. Take screenshots, log the results. This is the proof you'll need for your final report.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. This is the tangible thing you're going to hand in. It's called the responsive testing report. And honestly, getting this right is one of the easiest ways to show your marker that you know what you're doing.
And let me be absolutely crystal clear on this. Using the official template to create a responsive testing report is a mandatory part of your major project. This is not optional. It is not a nice to have. This is a required deliverable that is tied directly to your final grade.
So why are we being so serious about this? Because this has nothing to do with making things look pretty. This is about you demonstrating professional software engineering practices. This is the hard evidence that proves your application is robust, that it's accessible, and that it's ready for the real world. To be perfectly blunt, mastering this process is a huge key to getting the grade you want on your major project.
I want to leave you with this one last thought. For years, people have treated responsive design like it's this final chore you tack on at the very end. I'm telling you right now, that mindset is over. If you take one thing away from this today, let it be this. Responsive design isn't the last step of the process. From this moment on, for you, it is the process.